see you guys. Thanks for coming into the building. The energy on these courts has probably been at an all-time high. Our players have been. We have voluntary workouts where guys can come in the gym and get up and down, do mostly player development work and small group work, but some pickup ball at the end. And it's been fun to just see the guys competing and having fun with JJ and his staff. They're doing a great job.
So you talked a lot about continuity when you were working with the media here. I'm wondering if that continuity is because that's your vision, or is that because other stuff that you had in your mind or were looking at out there didn't work out for some reason?
Yeah, listen, continuity is an ingredient in sports that is always successful. If you look at sort of sustainable championship teams, there is continuity at the center of it, so that's an ingredient that we strive for. That said, we're not going to settle into continuity or not looking for ways to improve our roster. But that'll be through a lens and sort of making sure if we do something, it's super smart for both the now and the long term. And that's a tightrope to balance on.
We talk so much about the older players on your team, notice obviously LeBron James, but how important in this new era of the collective bargaining agreement is it for your team to get younger and for the younger players to contribute more?
Well, Ramona, it's really important, especially when you look at the top teams in the West and the team that won it last year. They're younger teams, and we all probably had to slug through in high school or college, economics and learn about supply and demand. And I think in this double cap apron system that we're in, the supply of trades is just way less significant than it used to be, and so if there's a demand, it makes the prices really high, and it just kind of changed the overall calculus. You don't want to walk into a really bad trade that'll set you back. So the right opportunity just hasn't come. We'll continue to look for it, and if there's a lever to pull with a first-round pick or multiple first-round picks that makes sense for us, we will absolutely do it. Our goal is to always be a championship-caliber team, and that'll remain our goal. So if that type of deal presents itself, we'll do it.
Rob, to add to that, because of how competitive, I think it might be as competitive an NBA as we've ever seen. From top to bottom, there's a lot of parity. Winning in the margins matters. So player development, because of how punitive the cap is, matters the most. You've kind of alluded to some of it during the press conference, but what are some examples of some of the guys that could contribute in a meaningful way?
Yeah, winning on the margins has been a big theme upstairs when the coach is the detail, and that's JJ's nature. It's sort of my nature when I was an agent, coming out of law school as a GM, is to be really in the margins, really in the details. And that's where we really want to win. I think the growth I've seen in our young players just in the couple months they've been working, Jalen Hood-Schifino, great growth. Max Christie, growth. Austin Reeves, growth. Dalton Connect, JJ said on a podcast yesterday, he's a top 1% shooter in the game. Just to see him in the gym as a movement shooter coming off pin downs and screens with great passers finding him. I think our fans will be really excited by some of our young core and the growth that is going on now and that we'll see throughout the season. But to your point, with this new system, player development and growing from within is going to be at an all-time premium for every team in the NBA.
Twitter is screaming at me to ask about the Bronny of it all. So what's your vision for how Bronny is going to play this year? How much time in the G League? How much time with the big club? What's
also
give
us some more of that story?
The story where
of course guys will play pickup in the summer, and so there was some pickup going on at the facility, and they don't normally start the game guarding each other. Bronny's 6'1", 6'2", and Bron is 6'9" or 6'10" or whatever you want. So, but when there's a screen, there's a cross switch, and all of a sudden LeBron has the ball on the wing and Bronny's on him, and we were all like, wow, what's going to happen? And the King went baseline and looked like he was trapped with nowhere to go, but of course launches and comes around on the other side of the glass with like a flick spin off the glass right
But you said he was trapped with nowhere to go, which meant Bronny had to move his feet.
Bronny was moving his feet. He was trying to get under him, and he was an amazing up and under off the glass. And then I'll leave the discourse between.
I mean, JJ's the former broadcaster.
I'll leave what happened after the basket to the privacy of a gym.
I like that.
Yeah.
It was fun to see. In terms of like forecasting the overall role or vision for Bronny, the mentality of JJ and our coaching staff is sort of eat what you kill. And so I think training camp's going to answer questions. Who are the guys that are going to emerge? We don't want to project a 6-month plan without kind of seeing it unfold and being open to every player on our roster and what their role will be on the team. That said, we feel really strongly about our South Bay Lakers development system for all of our young players at times if they're not getting minutes. And it's in our building. We hired a new coach, Zach Guthrie, and JJ's vision is to have that be very seamless. When players come back, it'll be coming back out of the same system, whether it's South Bay Lakers or Lakers.
Well, just one last one for me, I guess. In regards to your backcourt, I mean, there was a lot of chatter about the way that they defended, particularly late in the season and in the postseason. Because of the way, and JJ kind of started to talk about this, the way that you guys are going to play defense this year, how do you feel like those guys can improve on that end to help your cause defensively?
It's a great question. I mean, I think first we have a couple defensive players that are on the cusp of being, healthy and cleared, which is great. Gabe Vincent already is, and Vando's on his way. So just adding both those guys to the mix, I think will really – their point of attack perimeter defenders. We need those guys to be good and complement AR and complement D'Lo on the perimeter. That said, I think there's also been a challenge. JJ's very direct. You guys covered him as a player. Like, he doesn't pull punches. Mm-hmm. And he's been very direct with Austin in particular. Like, I need you to be a great defender. And we saw early on in Austin's career, he'd find ways to get in front of guys, to take charges, which is one of the best defensive plays you can have. It's a foul on the other team, gets you in the bonus, could potentially take a star player out of the game. He was elite at that. And so I think Austin wants to take on that challenge of becoming better on the defensive end. And, on the other side of the ball, just, again, seeing Austin in some of these scrimmages, like his confidence with the ball is something that has really stood out, and I'm excited for our fans to see that.
By the way, another example of you guys finding a way to win in the margins.
Yeah.
Austin Reeves is that perfect example of the way you guys continue to develop guys.
You look at evolutions of players, and I don't compare players around the league, but you look at a great player like a Jalen Brunson and the jump he had, from his Dallas days to New York, or just – is there that delta? I'm not trying to put expectations like that on Austin Reeves, but you can see players develop in big ways throughout their career. And I'm going to put my tokens down on Austin Reeves to do that just because of the work he puts in and just his fabric and nature. He's an incredibly tough person and an incredible competitor. And those things tend to elevate guys throughout their career.
Last one for me is just, you and JJ obviously went to Paris, watched AD and LeBron, and in the Olympics, those two were two of the top players on the team. And, we see players who play a long time. LeBron's obviously going to turn 40 this year. They played into the summer. I just got done watching episodes 1 and 2 of this Netflix documentary that's going to come out pretty soon, and he's talking about, I don't need minutes restrictions, I condition myself to play, and I think last year that lasted for one game. Is there any sense of, like, as good as they are, do you need to taper their minutes at the beginning or ramp them up because they had such a long summer because of their age and the wear and tear on their body?
You know what, Ramona, there's no better sort of lens for how a player's feeling than their own lens. That said, at times, the greats, you almost have to protect them from themselves if they're too competitive.
You had one of those as a client.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's always a balance, but LeBron, works hand in hand with Mike Mancias and Dr. Leroy Sims on our staff, and I'm sure we'll figure out, something that works perfectly for him. To be mindful of the stage of his career and the amount of, kind of reps he has on his body, but the point you make about the starting point of our season, having two of the best players in the world coming off a gold medal game, I know it's disappointing that we lost last year in the first round, but part of advancement is getting the right matchup, and you have to have good health and good fortune. And maybe if we wouldn't have run up against the Nuggets last year, we would have advanced further and the narrative would be different. So having those two anchors as a starting point and then seeing the growth of some of the role players, again, we have a high level of belief in this group, and